Welcome, everybody, to Mark It Down Live. As always, so happy to have you alongside me as hanging out down here in my basement / golf studio. Today's guest, we're going to take a little bit of a detour from PGA Tour professionals and go with a golf enthusiast, a guy who made his name for himself in the NFL, being a kicker there for 14 years, and now he's a broadcaster on CBS calling the action. His name's Jay Feely, and he's got a fantastic story. Goes into a lot of great tidbits in his life, how he got to where he got to in his kicking game, in his broadcasting career. Gives us some great stories, great insights. And as always, he's going to give us a little tip for our own golf game that he's learned over the years. So watch for that at the very end. And while the interview's going on, please engage with me. Comment in the comments section. Love to answer any questions you have about this interview or any others. Enjoy Jay Feely, and I'll talk to you on the other side.
I'm excited to welcome in a longtime NFL kicker turned broadcaster. He's joining us from his home in Arizona. Jay Feely, welcome to Mark It Down Live.
I appreciate it, Mark. You found me when I wasn't on the golf course. You know, that's pretty much what I've been doing for the last 2 months during this quarantine. We've been able to play golf out here in Arizona, so I've been on the course a lot.
We finally got the courses open here in Illinois, but you bring up a good question I want to ask you, that your off season's got to look a little different now as a commentator than it did as a player.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for me, it's pretty similar. You know, outside of my belly getting bigger and not having to work out as much, you know, when the season ended, when I was playing, I would take about a month off or so and not kick a ball at all and just let those muscles kind of recuperate. And then I would start kicking. You know, now when the season ends, I don't have to take that month off and let my body recuperate, but I got to go find my golf game again, you know, and then I go out and I have about the same season because I'll have off until September, and then I get ready for the season, and I start really getting ready end of July, studying, you know, looking at all the teams, the players, all that type of stuff, doing some off-season studying like I would when I was playing, and then get ready for the season. And then the season is pretty busy. There's a lot of travel, more so now when I'm broadcasting than even when I was playing.
Yeah, I was talking to Tony Romo one time, and he had said that you don't think about an NFL player, but they're only gone 8 away games a season, 8 nights on the road, unlike any other sport. So with the broadcasting, you're actually traveling more, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, Tony's flying in private and flying in last minute. So, you know, his schedule's a little better than the rest of us normal people. But, no, you fly in, like, especially West Coast to East Coast. It makes it even more difficult for me. But you fly in Thursday morning. You know, you get there Thursday. Friday morning, you usually go in and go to the home team. You meet with the players and the coaches for about 3 hours. You go out, you watch practice. And then Saturday, you meet with the away team when they come in. And then Friday night, Saturday night, you have production meetings. You usually go to dinner with your crew. And that's the thing I enjoy the most, is that you really have a family. You have a team that you're working with, that you're traveling with, that you go to dinner with. You know, they become your close friends, hopefully. You know, it's not just the people on air, it's the people behind the scenes that you see as well, the producers, directors that are there with you. And CBS is great because we're very much a big family, you know, and they're very focused on hiring the right kind of people, not just the right broadcasters. So you have a great feel, and those guys and girls that are on those teams, they become very close.
It's interesting you say that, because coming from an individual sport, that's one thing I really like about the broadcasting, is that I get to be part of that team you're talking about. You were part of a team, but sounds like you're with this team now, maybe a little bit more on site, getting ready for each game.
You know, it's fun to go out to dinner and you're talking about the game. And, you know, for me to be able to be around guys like a Tony Romo or Rich Gannon and guys that have been NFL MVPs and pick their brains. And, you know, I'm coming from the special teams perspective, and I came in as a kicker. So there was so much for me to learn, you know, calling games offensively, defensively, that any of those opportunities I get. When I go into the coaches' meetings and I get to sit down with, you know, Sean McVay and talk offense, or Bill Belichick and talk defense, I thrive on those meetings. I cherish those meetings. Some guys, you know, they're like, I don't want to go do the meetings. They're a pain in the butt. You know, it's a waste of my time. I'm the opposite. Like I want as much time as I can get with those coaches, and I want to pick their brains and learn as much as I can. It's fascinating to me to get to sit every weekend with some of the best coaches, some of the best leaders of men in the world, and see all these different ways of getting it done. You know, some guys are very meticulous and they're very structured and they're detail oriented and they want to make sure that every player does it exactly the same way. And other coaches, you know, come in and they want to create a fun atmosphere and they want their players to be loose. And so you see all these different ways of doing it and different philosophies. You know, it's just really fascinating.
So it sounds like you're a sponge and you're doing all that work that me, the guy sitting on the couch, wants to hear. So I certainly appreciate that. And it all started way back when really it seemed like soccer might have been your first love. You won a national championship as a 16-year-old there in Florida. Was that your first love, or you know, was football always the plan going to Michigan?
Well, I encourage not only my own kids, but also kids that I coach. You know, I coach golf in high school and girls soccer right now. And so I encourage everybody to play multiple sports because, you know, soccer was the sport I thought I would play in college and maybe beyond. It was the sport that I spent all my time on, you know, when I was young, going into high school and then certainly throughout high school. And I would go over to Europe every summer and play, you know, all the pro teams over there, and just loved it and played on this one team that we traveled. You talked about winning a national championship, and we go to Europe. And for a long time, that's what I thought I would do. And then all of a sudden, this football thing just kind of came about. You know, I went out as a freshman for JV football, you know, down in Tampa, Florida, and they said, who can kick? And I was like, I'll try. Like, I can kick a soccer ball far. You know, and little do you know, like, where that's going to take you and the path that it's going to lead you down. Kind of like Gary Woodland. You know, I read his stories. He's a basketball player. He wants to play basketball, and he plays his first year in college. All of a sudden, he realizes, like, yeah, I'm not going to be a basketball player for the rest of my life, and he turns to golf. And, you know, I think if you limit yourself to one sport, you're limiting those opportunities. And I think a lot of times we don't know what our best sport is going to be at 13 years old or 15 years old. You know, and so football kind of came about for me, and it led to going to Michigan and winning a national championship there, and then going to the NFL and playing for 14 years.
Certainly, and I was just wondering too. Then, once you get done at Michigan, plan I'm sure is to get in the NFL right away. What is it like, that uncertainty on draft night, 1999, as you wait for somebody to call your name?
So the only team that I really had a good workout with that I thought might sign me, or I didn't think they'd pick me, but they might sign me after the draft, was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You know, I'd worked out with them, was my hometown team, would have been a dream come true. They said, as long as we don't draft anybody, draft a kicker, we're going to sign you as soon as the draft is over. I was like, perfect. Like, you know, maybe one kicker gets drafted on one of 32 teams. All I got to do is avoid Tampa Bay. In the third round, they chose Martin Gramatic out of Kansas State. And my heart was broken. And so nobody signed me. You know, I didn't get drafted. I didn't get signed. And then, you know, I started working for 2 years. And as a golfer, so many golfers, that grind of trying to make it on the tour, of trying to play those mini tour events. You know, I remember when Tony Finau came out to Arizona, and a friend of mine had sponsored him. Tony comes out here, has no tour status. He's just playing the mini tour events, and lived with my family for 5 weeks. As he was playing out here in Arizona, playing on those mini tour events, just trying to get back into the game. And I remember being there. I remember going to work every day, finishing up work. I was working as a financial advisor, and then going and working out and trying to kick and trying to be ready for whenever that opportunity came. And I think that's probably the hardest part, is that you just don't know when or if ever you'll get that opportunity. Finally, I did get an opportunity. I went in and I kicked well. And honestly, it was like God opened the doors, and he opened them so big that I had to know it was him, not me, you know, who opened those doors. And I got to choose which team I wanted to go to. Now, my signing bonus was huge too. It was $0, but I got to
opportunity though. Who cares?
Right. Yes, I would have paid whatever for that opportunity. And I got to go in. I actually competed against Bruce Arians' son, Jake Arians, who was a kicker as well in Atlanta, and ended up winning the job. And, you know, all of a sudden you go from not being in the game to playing, you know, and you're sitting at home in your apartment with your wife, and you can't believe it's real. You know, you're seeing highlights, and you're on the highlights, and you're watching Chris Berman 'Berman 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 'Berman
Yeah, was it show me, no, see me, feel me? What was the nickname Berman gave you?
I think he said, see me, touch me, feel it. Yeah.
Okay. That's when you know you've arrived. But I will say, in terms of the general public, maybe people that don't watch football, the day you arrived was the day that Dane Cook played you on Saturday Night Live. Now, how did that ever happen?
Well, it happened because I stunk one day really bad. When I was with the Giants, we were playing at Seattle. It was a late November, early December game, and it was for home field advantage. We were both very good that year. And, I had actually had the best year of my career. I was leading the league in every category: field goals made, field goal percentage. I think I was, one of the top vote getters for the Pro Bowl at the time, and had a pretty good game and made a couple of kicks. And you come down, you get a game winner at the end of the game, and it's a right to left win. And I'm like, all right, just play it perfectly, just inside the upright, let the wind bring it back, and I hit it exactly where I wanted, and the wind just brought it the other way, and I missed by a foot, and you're crushed because you hit the exact shot you want, and you think you did everything right, and then we go to overtime, and I get like a 55-yard game winner in overtime, and it's at Seattle where the ball doesn't carry well, it's in the wind. I literally know I have no chance of making this kick.
That's what you told me. The coach said, can you make it, Jay? And you're like, no. Well, go in there and try.
You got it, though. So I go in there. I missed that kick. And then we get another game winner. It's like a 49-yarder. Now, this one I could have made. And it's the only kick that I ever missed that I missed because I was scared of failing. That the pressure had an impact on me in that moment. And when you get to the point, Mark, you know this with golf. If you're at that point where you're hoping that you're going to make it, that you're hoping you're going to make a good swing, you've already lost. You're not going to make a good swing. You have to go into it knowing, trusting your fundamentals, trusting that you're going to go out there and execute. And I didn't. And so we lose the game, and I had 3 game winners, and I missed all 3 of them. We go back, and now I'm getting crushed in New York, and the New York media is ruthless when you don't do well, and there's a lot of it. So it's everywhere. And I'm just trying to get through that next week and get to the next game and not get fired. And so it's Saturday night. We're playing at Philadelphia that next week. I'm trying to go to sleep, not think about the last game, and get mentally prepared for this game. And all of a sudden, my phone just starts blowing up. And there's 50 text messages, and they're saying, dude, they're killing you on Saturday Night Live right now. And as you said, Dane Cook was playing me, and it was all about what it was like to fly home on that plane from Seattle all the way across the country to New York. And it was, in retrospect, it was funny. My wife thought it was really funny at the moment. I didn't see the humor at that time. I was just trying not to get fired the next week. And in fact, I go out, we play Philadelphia that next day. I have a couple of field goals during the game, but of course, the game goes to overtime again. Of course, I have another game winner. They call timeout to ice me. And during the timeout, on the Jumbotron at Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, they play a montage of my misses on the Jumbotron during that timeout. I'm literally trying not to look at it, trying not to hear it, imagine you have a putt to win the Masters, okay?
Right.
You got an 8-footer to win the Masters, and right before that putt, there's a Jumbotron, and they show all your missed putts, all your clutch missed putts that you have missed in your career right there. Let's see how Mark Wilson handles this putt after he watches all of his missed putts that he's had in his career.
So how did you handle it?
You know what? The key to kicking, and really I think it's similar to golf, and I got this from Bob Rattella's book early in my career, was you focus on the process, not the product. Mm-hmm. Right? You don't worry about the end result. You don't worry about the implications of what you're doing, how important it is. I knew if I missed that kick, I would lose my job. My career would probably over. We'd have to sell our home. We'd have to move. There's all these things that you can think about in that moment that just hinder you from being successful. They don't help you. And so what you have to do is you have to discipline your mind to not allow it to wander. And I found that the only way you can really do that is to occupy your mind. If you try to have nothing on your mind, it's going to wander. These thoughts are going to pop in there. And so I always had 2 or 3 things that I was going to repeat to myself, in those moments. Head down, lock my ankle, follow through. And really just think about those and focus on those. Because if I'm thinking about those, I'm not thinking about all those other things and not allowing my mind to wander and think about how important this kick is. I'm actually thinking about those couple fundamentals that are actually really going to help me in that moment. I was able to go out there and make the kick, and my career went on. And I will say, my career before that those missed field goals against the Seahawks, I was a below average kicker in the NFL, just good enough to keep my job. After that missed kick in the Saturday Night Live skit, I was an above average kicker in the NFL, and in the next 9 years, I didn't miss another game winner. And I think the reason for that is because I failed as bad as I could fail on a big stage. I got made fun of nationally, and it didn't break me. And I think what it does is it takes away some of that fear of failure. You fail as bad as you can, and it didn't break you, and your career goes forward, and you're like, okay, what do I have to fear now? And I lost some of that fear of failure, and I was able to go out and enjoy myself a lot more and really take in those moments, and it made me a much better kicker.
It's great advice. There's so many things. You're right. You get to that valley, that low. It sounds like you got to the very bottom of the valley. You felt like it's like, hey, I can't go any worse. Yeah. And what was I fearing? Once you experience that, what was I really fearing? That's not that big of a deal. I can be the brunt of a joke. I can handle that. And yeah, you had a fantastic career after that, and you finished it off with a few games with the Chicago Bears, where I live in Chicago. How was that experience to finish your career before you went into commentating?
Well, I teased Robbie Gold, and Robbie and I are good buddies and play golf together. I think he just didn't want to play the last 3 games at Soldier Field outdoors in December, and then there was one in chilly Minnesota when they were playing outside. So they're all 4 outdoor cold weather games, and Robbie just decided, I think I'll shut it down and let you do those last 4 games, Jay. But, for me, I grew up, a lot of my family lived in Chicago and still do, and I loved Walter Payton as a kid. He was one of my favorite. He and Dan Marino are my 2 favorite players. I had a picture of Walter Payton that hung next to my bed as I grew up that was signed and said, Jay, life and athletics require a total effort for success. So to be able to get to finish my career and play for one of those teams that I loved as a kid, I got married in Chicago in Northbrook. It was really cool for me to be able to finish that way. We didn't have a good 4 games when I was there. We didn't win a lot of games, and then the coaching staff got fired, but it was pretty cool to be able to play for that team, to be able to put the C on my helmet, and to be able to finish my career that way.
Well, we share that. I was buried in Northfield, which is right next to Northbrook. So right. Very, very similar spots. Jay, you've used this platform so well with so many different things. You came and played my charity event 5 years ago, really helped us out with our Blessings in a Backpack. And I know you've got an event coming up here very soon, May 17th. What's going on?
Yeah, the Chad Tuff organization. Chad Carr was Lloyd Carr's grandson. So Jason Carr, who I played with at Michigan, his son, unfortunately passed away from pediatric brain cancer. DIPG is the term, and half of all brain cancers, pediatric brain cancers, are DIPG. A lot of people don't know about it. And then another good friend of mine that played for me at Michigan was a teammate of Jason Carr, Jeff Delverne. His son passed away from it as well. So it's very personal to me and to really all those people in the Michigan family that know Jason and know Jeff Delverne and knew their sons. We were supposed to have our big gala coming up, and unfortunately with COVID, they couldn't do it. So we're doing a big virtual event on May 17th. You can go on to the website, Chad Tuff website, and there's going to be a live link, and it'll be a lot of fun. We're going to interview, kind of like what you and I are doing right now, interview a lot of different people. John Beeline, who was a former coach at Michigan, basketball coach, he's going to be on there. Lloyd Carr, my former coach. Dick Vitale, I'm sure that'll be a fun, exciting experience. Mitch Albom, the author, who's done a lot with the Chad Tuff Foundation, he's going to be on there as well. A lot of different athletes, a lot of different Michigan people, and just having fun talking about sports, talking about the Chad Tuff Foundation, why it's special, why it's meaningful, and trying to help continue to raise funds, because all their money goes to research, trying to find a cure for that and trying to help those kids that unfortunately come down with DIPG.
It speaks to the resiliency of us people. Like, they're telling us we got to be in our homes now. That's not going to stop us from fighting for a cause. Love what you're doing at Michigan, and I can't not bring up Tom Brady, one of your teammates at Michigan, because he's got a big match coming up, partnering with Phil Mickelson. What do we expect to see in Tom Brady's golf game?
I've played a lot of golf with Tom Brady. In fact, we started together, we worked at the University of Michigan golf course when we were at Michigan. I was picking up range balls. He was working in the shop. You know, we pretty much worked just so we could play golf for free at the Michigan course, which is a great course, Alistair McKenzie designed course. The loser of our matches always would have to buy Olive Garden. So, you know, when you're in college, you get all-you-can-eat breadsticks, the salad. Like, that was a big deal to us. So the loser had to buy Olive Garden. You know, we've continued to play a lot throughout days. Tom's got a very smooth swing. Grew up in California, playing golf in San Mateo. He doesn't practice near as much as he should. And I think if he ever, when he stops playing and he focuses on golf, he'll be a scratch golfer very quickly because he can hammer the ball, he can hit it a long way. He's got, you know, he's 6'5", he's got that big arc. You know, and my whole advice to him, because we've been texting back and forth, I've been giving him some trash talk about this. You know, you better not go out there and suck out there on national TV and just put a saddle on Phil Mickelson and ride around the course all day. But I kept telling him, hey, just focus on 100 and in. Don't worry about it. Just spend all your practice time on 100 and in, working on that short game, dialing in, being able to get up and down. Obviously, I'm sure they're going to get scopes, so you're going to get something, you know, to level the playing field in some way. But Tom's a gamer now, Mark. Like, he is a competitor. I've seen him break clubs out on the course when he's not winning. To me, I also saw we played Boston Golf Club, and they finish up with a par three, a long par three there. And one of our matches came down to the last hole, and he hit it to about an inch to beat me, you know, and almost knocked it in for a hole-in-one to finish up and beat me. And, you know, he can play, and it'll be fun. He'll talk trash. I love to see all the stuff they've already been putting out on social media. I think it's brilliant because everyone's going to watch. I mean, The Last Dance has gotten unbelievable ratings because there's nothing else to watch. That's not even live sports, right? That's just a documentary about something that happened 30 years ago. But I'd watch all 10 episodes of that if they released them right in a row.
For sure.
I think everybody's going to want to see this match and watch Brady and Manning go against each other. You know, watch Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson and all the trash talk that might go along with it. You know, I mean, it's going to be a fascinating match. I think you and I should be in it personally against them as well, but, you know, I didn't get to make that choice.
Maybe next time. They'll be looking for other matches. Hopefully we're not locked down that much longer, but that's good advice to be watching there for Tom Brady as a gamer in that match. Looking forward to it.
How about you and me against Streelman and Urlacher, Chicago Golf Club? That's match part 2.
I love it. Let's get a sponsor. Everybody watching, just chime in. We'd love to raise some money for a good cause. So I love the idea. We'll work on that. And on Mark It Down Live, I always like to get a swing thought from my guests. So we're going to go into golf here a little bit. I got to ask you, how's your game right now? And then secondly, I want to get a swing thought from you. Maybe there's something that's worked for you over the years more than any other swing thought.
So my game since March 1st, I looked it up the other day out here in Arizona. You're in chilly Chicago right now where it's like 40 degrees outside. You can't even go outside to hit a club. But I have put 40 rounds onto my gin since March 1st. So I've had a lot of time on the golf course here. And the game is like, I feel like the more I play, the worse I get, actually. Like my scores definitely were better early in March. I think you start grinding, start working on things. But I like I told Brady, I focus on 100 and in. Like I try and get to where I can hit those shots tight. You know, if I get an opportunity I have to lay up, okay, I can still hit it tight and get up and down if I make a mistake. Swing thoughts, other than swing hard and hope. That's kind of my my swing thought off the tee. You know, but I want to be smooth and yet aggressive. Mm-hmm. I try not to swing really hard. I almost always club down. It's something that I used to not do. I used to always, you know, I want to keep up with whoever could hit it the furthest. You get caught up. What are you hitting? Oh, you're hitting a 5? Oh, I can get a 5 there. What do I care? If I can hit a smooth 3-iron and they're hitting a 6-iron, like, I don't care what you hit anymore. I think that's where my game has matured, certainly. To me, it's only about getting the ball close. Like, if I have to bump and run it, if I got to hit a knockdown, I mean, I don't care if it looks pretty. I don't care how – if I got to take putter from, 10 feet off the green and putt it and knock it up there, I'll do that. Like, there's no ego whatsoever in my game. It's just about the number.
Check the ego at the door. That's great advice. Well, Jay, thank you so much for your time. And before we go, I'm going to try out that technique you talked, your routine for kicking.
Okay, let's see.
Head down, knees locked, and follow through, right?
Head down, lock your ankle, follow through.
Lock the ankle. Okay, here we go.
Is that number 7 at Pebble right there?
Yeah, the simulator doesn't pick up the ball, but let's just pretend I'm going to hit it 100 yards.
So I'll narrate you here. You know, we got about 100 yards, a long kick. So Mark Wilson has been working out all off season, really doing a lot of squats, trying to build up those quads. He's got to hit it nice and smooth here. A little left to right wind. Ooh, he brought his toe up a little bit, but I think it's good.
I'll work on that. That balance to finish was awful, but maybe I can get a lesson from you someday.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, bud. Look forward to playing again.
All right, see you, Jay. You bet.
Take care.
Well, that was a little embarrassing. Jay was being extremely nice, saying that was good. I have a feeling I would have seen this, maybe this, or something like this. I would not have made that field goal. And it speaks volumes, though, about what I was thinking about. I was over that, thinking, Jay Feely's watching me. I want to look somewhat like an athlete here. And I got so caught up in that and trying to look right. Well, in the end, I looked silly, right? My balance was horrible. I should have been thinking about those 3 things that Jay told me. And I even recited those just before I kicked it. I still had forgotten them. What did he say? Head down, lock the ankle, and follow through. Leads me to the 3 takeaways I have for you today from Jay's interview. The first one being the importance of a sound routine. You think about a routine, and I'm not talking about just the physical side. I'm talking also about the mental side of the routine. And really, I think the mind is the thing that really drives the whole routine. Jay talked about occupying your mind, being disciplined to put thoughts in there that are going to be helpful. Jay had his 3 fundamentals he repeated to himself versus thinking about keeping it blank up there, because lo and behold, there's room then for that result thought, the negative thoughts to creep in. I thought it was cool to hear that he really learned that routine from Dr. Bob Rotel and reading one of his golf books. I worked with Dr. Bob many years on the PGA Tour. Secondly, Jay talked about being ready when your opportunity comes about. Jay, after his time in Michigan, didn't get picked up by a team right away, but he wanted to play in the NFL. So as he was working as a financial analyst, he put in his work afterwards, his workouts, his kicking, to be ready so that when that team called, he was going to be prepared. Isn't that sound a little bit like right now during this COVID-19? Kind of easy for us to put our feet up and wait for the bell to ring for our job, our sport, our school to get started again. Well, if that happens, we may not be ready. So why don't we be ready? Take this opportunity to do those things so that we're prepared. Finally, he talked about the fear of failure and how that can paralyze us. I like to replace any failure thoughts I have with saying to myself, hey, this is an opportunity to do something great. If I'm in the fairway and I got a 7-iron and all I see is the trouble and ways that I can mess up, I'm bound to put my hands on the steering wheel and be very timid and steery in my golf swing. But if I'm not fearing failure, then all of a sudden my true potential comes out. I find a freedom in my golf swing that is what we all need in life, no matter what the situation, to really reach our true potential. It could be public speaking. It could just be talking to your boss. It could be in school taking a test, or in some sort of athletics, or in music, some other kind of performance. Jay talked candidly there about what he felt like was his low point there, missing those 3 game-winning field goals, being made fun of on Saturday Night Live, but he realized that didn't break him. And because that didn't break him, he realized that he was maybe thinking too much about failing, and he moved forward to end up being the best kicker he could be. He felt like he really reached his potential after that low spot. A little side note on that one, as we were watching the interview, after I recorded it, my son was watching it, and he said, hey, Dad, how was that actual flight home? And I was like, oh, I need you in my ear telling me follow-up questions. That would have been a great one. So I texted Jay, and he told me that it was tough. It was a really tough one. He felt like he let his team down. he felt like he let himself down because he kind of ruined his best season to date. But he did say fast forward in his career that with his maturity later on in his career, that flight home after an away game was sweet, no matter win or loss, because the pressure was off. The week was over with, and he could sit back for a little bit and not have to think about that next opponent just yet. Let's talk about Jay's swing thoughts. He had a lot of good ones. The first one talking about being smooth yet aggressive. And what I think he means by that is a lot of times people, when they hear smooth, they think of slow. And that's not helpful in golf. You want to make a nice aggressive swing through the ball. I'll take that at Pebble. Looks like about inside 10 feet. Secondly, he talked about the importance of hitting shots 100 yards and in. Well, 7th at Pebble, that was about a 100-yard shot. Certainly can save a lot of strokes from that distance. He gave Tom Brady that advice, too. Be interested to see how Tom plays in the upcoming match there with his partner, Phil Mickelson. See if he's taken Jay Feely's advice. We'll watch his shots around the greens. Finally, he talked about checking your ego at the door, and that's so key, right? And that seems like that's a maturity thing. The older you get, the more you're able to do that. Who cares if he's hitting 8-iron, I'm hitting 5-iron? Who cares if he's going to hit a flop shot and I want to putt it through the fairway onto the green? The score is really ultimately what matters. So many great tidbits from Jay Feely, both on the mental side and on the physical side for golf and in life in general. Got to plug his event, May 17th. Sounds like an awesome one, especially if you're a Michigan grad or a Michigan fan. Seems like a no-brainer. Jay Feely talking to all these Michigan icons and getting their stories. I'm sure it's going to be a great night, and also going to raise a bunch of money for cancer research. So even if you're not a Michigan fan, if you're a sports fan and you want to help out with cancer research, tune in on May 17th. The website was earlier, so back up this video and you can find the Chad Tuff website. Finally, just want to plug my own YouTube channel. If you missed any part of this interview, or if you need that Chad Tuff address, go to my YouTube channel, Mark It Down Golf, and you can find this whole episode along with the other episodes of Mark It Down Live. Subscribe, sign up for notifications. I'd love to clue you in when I've dropped a video. So much to choose from for my Mark It Down today, but I'm going to leave you with this one because this one is the one that really stood out. Mark it down. Let's all embrace our failures because as long as they don't break us, they're going to help all of us reach our true potential. You all have a great week. Look forward to another Mark It Down Live next week, and until then, you all be safe.